Lewis was being followed closely by the driver of a black Honda. As he rounded a curve, the Honda driver took the opportunity to speed around Lewis before losing control. The Honda driver went too fast into the curve and slid into a parked SUV. Lewis stopped to check on the occupants, and neither of them were seriously injured. Lewis called 911, but he told us the police never responded. Instead, 2 tow trucks arrived to take both vehicles away. Evidently, the owner of the SUV wasn't home at the time, but Lewis sent a copy of his dashcam footage to one of their neighbors. Imagine coming home and finding that! Check out what happened to Tim as he was headed to school. He was driving his BMW about 45 miles per hour when another driver failed to yield and pulled out in front of him. He was able to get out of his car on his own and disconnect the battery, but bystanders made sure he was rushed to the hospital. He had extensive internal injuries, and he spent a week and a half in the hospital and another 3 months in physical therapy, plus a month of psychotherapy. He received $8,600 for his totaled car and his pain and suffering. He's working on trying to get the car roadworthy again, but in the meantime, he's driving this BMW E39 540i, his dream car. Be careful out there, Tim. We're glad you're okay. This week's first video comes to us from Scranton, Pennsylvania. A Honda driver pulled out in front of our submitter's Audi A4. Even though he honked and swerved, he wasn't able to avoid a collision. Police responded, and so did the owner of the Honda, who turned out to be the daughter of the elderly woman who'd been driving. She gave her mom a piece of her mind, while the cops gave our submitter a ride home. Kyle was driving his 2017 Audi A4 at about 30 miles per hour. As he approached an intersection, his view was obstructed by traffic in the left turn lane, and he assumed those drivers were yielding for oncoming traffic. Actually, traffic had stopped for an ambulance with lights and siren active. Kyle didn't see it until he'd already entered the intersection, and his attempt to brake wasn't enough to prevent a collision. Kyle filed an insurance claim, including his dashcam footage as evidence. When police arrived, they watched his video and chose not to give him a citation. The car was totaled and towed away. Kyle's still waiting to hear who was found to be at fault for the accident, but he wants to know what you think. Let him know in a comment below. Harry was driving in heavy rainfall when he went to overtake a semi. Unfortunately, tire spray from the truck was hiding an oncoming vehicle, and Harry had to slam on his brakes to avoid a head-on accident. As he passed the other car, Harry and his passenger both gestured at the driver to keep his headlights on. What a scary situation. Want to see what happens when you start drinking at 6 in the morning? Keep watching. Matt was towing a trailer full of wooden fence posts when a Ford Explorer hopped a curb in reverse before plowing into his 2017 Jeep Wrangler. The Explorer driver claims he got his foot stuck under the brake pedal, evidently with his other foot smashing the accelerator. While in reverse, the Explorer bounced off a Cadillac before jumping the curb, destroying a section of wooden fence, and finally slamming into Matt's Jeep. He continued flooring the gas for 30 seconds before finally turning off the car. For his part, Matt had seen the out-of-control SUV and had stopped, but he had no time to back up, especially considering that he was pulling a trailer at the time. Matt says the guy was very apologetic and couldn't figure out how his foot had gotten stuck like that, but Matt has a theory about that. After the police arrived, the Explorer driver was arrested for driving under the influence. Matt sent his dashcam footage to the other driver's insurance provider, and they paid to have the Jeep repaired after accepting responsibility. Matt says the guy's wife was way more upset with him than he was. We're all just glad the Explorer's steering wheel was turned to the left and not to the right. There was a kid's birthday party happening in the park on the other side of the parking lot when this all went down. K0D was headed to a store to buy school supplies when a lady driving a Toyota Corolla failed to yield to traffic and pulled in front of him. He locked up his brakes and honked, but he couldn't stop fast enough to avoid a collision. The Toyota driver then smashed the gas, hopped a curb, and hit a parked Lexus before finally stopping. The lady in her 40s accused K0D of merging into her, and she even summoned family and friends to the scene to lie and say they'd seen the accident and that K0D was at fault. When the police arrived, they declared the Toyota driver at fault as soon as they saw the dashcam footage. They cited her for 3 separate infractions. Her insurance provider, Progressive, which happens to be the insurance provider for the Toyota and the Lexus owners as well, refused to provide him with a rental car, and they only offered him 1/3 of what the car was worth. They also won't replace the laptop he'd borrowed from his university that was damaged in the accident, and the university is now threatening to withhold his registration. Fortunately, K0D has hired an attorney, and they're currently fighting the insurance company for better compensation. Steven was waiting to turn left at a red light when he watched another driver run their red light, T-boning a car and pushing it into Steven's Trailblazer. The car that was T-boned was being driven by an elderly gentleman, and he sustained moderate injuries. Neither Steven nor the woman who had run the red light were hurt. All 3 vehicles were heavily damaged, but Steven is still waiting on repairs and doesn't know how much the final bill will be. This is just another reminder of why you should always stop at a red light, even if it has only been red for a second. Robert was driving his Jeep Gladiator when he approached a traffic light. The driver on his right had left a gap for an SUV to exit a driveway, so Robert stopped to avoid hitting them. Unfortunately, the driver of a Mustang driving up the turn lane didn't notice the SUV and ran into it even while slamming on the brakes. Robert gave a copy of his dashcam footage to the police. Aaron was driving his Jeep Wrangler down a Texas highway when he noticed something coming off a trailer he was passing. Little did he know, it was actually the lug nuts coming loose and flying at his car, and it was about to get a whole lot worse. With nothing holding it on, a tire flew off the trailer and straight toward Aaron's Jeep. He managed to avoid a head-on hit, but the tire still smashed into his door, and his evasive maneuver put him in the grass. The other driver didn't want his insurance premiums to go up, so he paid Aaron out of his own pocket to repair both passenger side doors and replace a custom wrap. The total cost of repairs was just shy of $4,000 US. Cameron was headed home in his Honda Civic when the vehicle in front of him kicked up a chunk of concrete. The concrete was debris left over from construction and weighed 5 pounds. When it hit Cameron's windshield, it punched a hole through the glass and sprayed shards all over the cabin. Cameron was hospitalized and needed surgery to remove glass from his face. He sent us some gnarly photos, which YouTube won't let us show you. $26,000 US later, both he and his car are okay. Morgan had just finished making fun of what he calls a goofy paint job on the Nissan in front of him at a traffic light. As the Nissan driver accelerated away, racing another driver next to him, he lost control and left the road.
Oh my... We need to stop. We need to stop. We need to call 911.
Morgan immediately pulled over, calling 911 while his wife ran to render aid. The driver who'd been racing the Nissan then accidentally put his car in reverse before getting out and had to climb through his window to get to the brake. Morgan told us the Nissan driver wasn't seriously injured and was treated by paramedics for a tiny scratch on his head. Police wrote him a citation after he admitted to driving recklessly. The other racing driver noped out once it was clear the Nissan driver was okay. Morgan gave the police a copy of his dashcam footage, but he never heard anything back from them. He told us that after this incident, they've upgraded their dashcam to 4K, a decision we definitely support. If you need a high-quality dashcam for your car, links to our recommendations are in the video description. Brandon had just dropped off a package at UPS and noticed his friend and coworker on the opposite side of an intersection while they both waited for a fire engine to pass. Watch what happened after the light turned green. A speeding pickup truck ran the red light, taking the front of Brandon's friend's car clean off. The truck was doing at least 60 miles per hour and never attempted to swerve or brake. The car was totaled, and the pickup driver accepted responsibility. Brandon took his friend to the emergency room, but they determined he wasn't seriously injured. David was driving along when a Mercedes-Benz cut across traffic. David tried to slam on his brakes at the last minute, but so did the driver of the Mercedes, and he hit its right rear wheel. David said the Mercedes wasn't going to be a problem until it started stopping in his lane. Until then, he thought the driver was making a left turn into the lane next to him. The passenger in the Benz was shaken up, but she didn't require transportation to the hospital even though she did file an insurance claim for a neck injury. David was alone in his truck, but he had his dash cam as a witness to the accident. The police gave the other driver a ticket at the scene, but David was later called into court because she decided to fight her ticket. She produced David's dash cam video as evidence that she did stop at the stop sign. The judge agreed that she'd stopped, but added, "You then pulled directly into traffic." Her ticket was not dismissed. David's insurance provider wanted to total his truck, so he decided not to proceed with the claim and fix the truck himself. Jeremy's dad was driving along in his Toyota Highlander. The driver of a white pickup truck was driving distracted, interpret that how you will, before traffic ahead of them came to a stop. The white pickup smashed into the pickup in front of it, pushing it into another pickup, which was then pushed into a sedan. In total, 4 vehicles were involved in this fender bender. This submitter was driving her Acura in Yonkers, New York, when the driver of an unmarked van made an illegal U-turn across her lane. Unfortunately, the submitter's vehicle was totaled. The driver of the van then took off, turning this accident into a hit and run. The submitter contacted the police, but they had no luck deciphering the license plate number. If you recognize this white, unmarked GMC Savannah or know who it belongs to, please contact us directly, and we'll pass the information along to the submitter. Ed was headed to work in Malaysia, going about 60 miles per hour to make it in time for a meeting. Without signaling, the driver of a Peugeot suddenly merged into Ed's lane in front of him. Ed had no time to slow down and slammed into the Peugeot, flipping it over. The police were notified, and Ed made a claim with the other driver's insurance. The other driver claimed he'd used his turn signal, but the dashcam video shows otherwise. Without the video evidence, the police told Ed he would have been held responsible for the accident. Fortunately, nobody was injured. Repairing Ed's car cost about $3,500 US. Joseph had taken his manual transmission Chevy Cobalt in for an oil change. After an employee moved his car into the shop, they left the car in gear and didn't set the brake. When another employee had finished filling the oil, they reached in the open window of the car and turned the ignition, sending the car lurching forward and smashing into a toolbox before the engine stalled. The manager told Joseph that there had been a minor bump, but Joseph was shocked when he watched his dashcam footage and learned what had really happened. After he showed the shop owner the footage, they did the right thing and agreed to pay for the $670 US in damage. He also let us know that the shop owner has been really helpful with the whole situation. Want to know how this happened? Buckle up, we're about to find out. Mario was on his way to pick up his daughter from kindergarten. A young woman driving a Lexus T-boned Mario's Kia Rio at 60 miles per hour, sending it rolling 60 feet before landing on top of a parked Toyota Corolla. Along the way, it hit a traffic signal as well. All 3 vehicles were totaled. The other driver said she'd been looking at a map on her phone and hadn't seen Mario. He sustained neck and back injuries, but he said he's lucky to be alive and he's glad this happened before picking up his daughter. Michaela was driving her Volkswagen Golf down a highway in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Watch what happened when a pickup driver swerved without checking his blind spot to avoid a car that had stopped. The pickup cut off a minivan, and the driver had no chance to stop before hitting the back of the pickup. While the minivan rolled over, the pickup spun into Michaela's lane and she hit it head-on. Incredibly, there were no serious injuries. Unfortunately, all 3 vehicles involved were totaled. This submitter was driving down a highway in Iowa when a truck driver failed to see a sedan before changing lanes, sending the sedan hurtling across the highway and directly in front of our submitter. Our submitter had no chance to stop in time, slamming into the side of the other car. The other car was totaled, and our submitter's Chevy Bolt EUV sustained $12,000 US in damage. The semi-truck was just scratched, according to the submitter. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. Cole was headed to work, and he admits he was speeding about 10 miles per hour over the limit. Suddenly, a pickup truck hidden by the glare of oncoming headlights pulled onto the road in front of him. Cole had no chance to stop, T-boning the pickup truck. His rare Saturn Ion Redline was sent rolling, finally coming to rest on its roof. Unsurprisingly, it was totaled. Cole had to have surgery for a broken wrist and says he's lucky to be alive. Amazingly, he told us the pickup driver's insurance provider is blaming him for the accident and refusing to pay for his claim. He wants to know who you think is at fault and if he should hire an attorney to sue the insurance company. He also wanted to shout out his family for supporting him through this ordeal. Kalos was approaching a red light in his Toyota Corolla. When the light turned green, he began accelerating, but the driver of a Kia Telluride decided to make an unprotected left turn in front of him. Kalos couldn't avoid a collision even though he applied the brakes. The Kia driver then took off, leaving him confused. His Corolla, which was decorated for Halloween, was totaled, and he and his passenger were both injured. The Kia driver was later caught and arrested for DUI and hit and run. Kalos is still waiting to get a settlement for his totaled car.